So, Paul Zimmerman, welcome to Breakfast with Bobsy.
Thanks for inviting me.
Pleasure to have you here on this lovely day.
No, it's fantastic. I'm so happy it's cooled down a bit. It was hot this weekend.
Scorcher. We do have a fan strategically pointed over there that could help us.
All right, that's fine.
Paul, I'm not sure where to begin with you. You're a man of many hats, many talents. You're an activist in our community. Initially, I got to know you through Designing Hong Kong, which is a wonderful platform, and we'll talk about that. And more recently, I've got to know you as the councillor for the Southern District. But I know you're involved with many more things on many levels. But perhaps let's start with a little bit about your background, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah, I know you're Dutch and raised in Holland.
Born in Rotterdam, yeah, in Holland.
Nice.
Almost 60 years ago.
Almost.
Almost.
When's your birthday?
November this year.
Are you Sag?
It's my
Scorpio.
I'm a Scorpio.
Nice.
So this is my year of the dog, and it's Scorpion, say 8th of November. I'll pass the mark.
They say life begins at 60 anyway.
Is it? Oh, okay. Well,
60 is the new 40.
I'm happy. No, it's good. And I came out. It's 1984, so 34 years.
Amazing. Amazing. And you came for a purpose, on a mission?
No, I had some experience with Asia because my family had been buying textiles here. And I came once in 1977 on a buying trip with the family, or with my dad, and he went into China. And I spent time here in Hong Kong and in Macau. You also went to Taiwan and other places to buy textiles. This is all in 1977. That was my first time I was out here. So I had it in my head to come back after I finished my study. And I also had a good reason. I mean, if I'd stayed in Holland, I had to do 1.5 years drinking beers in the army, because there was not much going on in the army at that time. There was a draft, and so I didn't think it was, for me, it was good to stay another 1.5 years doing nothing. So I had a good reason to come out here, and I got a job here, and I never left.
Amazing. What was your first job here?
I had a job with a bank for 3 months to find out that I was not a banker.
No.
I ended up working for a computer company that was all startup at that time, so worked for them for a period of time, and then I went to a PR company handling computer clients. So company names at that time was IBM and Ashton Tate, Memorex, Telex, all kind of names that people don't know much about these days. From there on, I started my own company doing production work and PR work, which I ran till 1998. After I'd sold it then to a company that was doing events, so we expanded the package from doing design and communication work to also include events. And I ran that until 2001 or so, and that's when I kind of like looked up and decided, am I going to stay here or not? You know, you're sold up, finished up. And I decided to stay. I looked at Holland. It was very boring, very cold. 400 kilometers of traffic jam every day, so I didn't particularly like that. Went to Australia, I looked there, but beautiful, but boring. Then I lived for half a year in Shanghai. Fantastic. Couldn't see my kids there. And so did the circle and came around and decided that Hong Kong was home. And then really rooted here myself with trying to get some new work. Ended up working for Jepson and did a lot of mergers and acquisitions in the travel business, and set up their car, the automotive for Aston Martin that they still run here. Yeah. But alongside, I was no longer as interested in the commercial world, and I got involved doing more NGO work. And it started off with designing Hong Kong Harbour District.
So what was the turning point to go from a businessman to realizing that you want to do designing work for the community?
Was actually, there were 2 points probably in that one. In around 2001, 2002, when I had sold up and looked around the world, and you kind of like, what do I do next with my life? I had a conversation with somebody who told me, the first part of your life, learn, the second part of your life you earn, and the third part of your life you serve. And I was, serve? What do you mean? I had done the learning and earning,
Right.
never really thought about serving, because you know, you had your head down working hard and not thought about it. So that's when I then started thinking about the whole concept of getting involved in an NGO, starting helping out, and that project became Designing Hong Kong Harbour District, was the first one. And then it was a transition that was slowly, it was gradual. As I got more and more deeper involved in designing Hong Kong, and it was really rewarding to be involved with all these projects, and it became more political because it was land related.
So what year was this now?
So now it's so from the transition then from 2002 to about 2010. So in 2010, I started to get really I gave up commercial work entirely and became 100% involved with politics and NGO work, and I got elected in the Southern District Council in 2010. And then in 2012 I gave up my passport and became a Chinese citizen.
That's an amazing thing to do, and I want to touch on that as well. But as you've touched on it, so you relinquished your European passport, and now you're a full Chinese citizen.
Yeah.
That's an amazing thing to do. I mean, there's just a handful of people in Hong Kong that I'm aware of who've done that.
Well, some of my friends would ask me whether I was stupid, and every time something goes wrong in this part of the world, and they look at me and go like, I told you so. But you know, I got more and more involved in politics, and that felt really awkward being involved in politics and speak up for issues in the city beyond this kind of the livability of the city, in political affairs and so on, without being a local, without being 100% rooted here.
Yes.
Because all of the issues that we're all facing in Hong Kong, and especially those who don't have a set of travel papers that gives them the freedom to leave all the time. It's so what's going to happen with the future of Hong Kong, and that's the future of China. So if you speak on those issues, it feels a bit silly to not be local. I don't feel.
Don't look Chinese.
Yeah. So what do you have a right and speak up on these issues? So kind of I'd made Hong Kong my home in 2002. In the step in 2012 to also give up my passport to become Chinese was a relatively small step.
It's very admirable, Paul. It really, truly is, because you're committing on a much deeper level than just living here and operating a business or buying property. It's for me. I really admire that. It's going beyond the beyond that you are committed to Hong Kong to make a difference.
Yeah, it's my home.
It's your home.
Yeah. I've no other home.
You've taken it a step deeper.
You know, I mean, Holland is there, and I go on Holland, and I love to go on holiday. I love to see my mother. I love to cook her meals and hang out and go to the beach with her. My brother still lives there, and he pops up if I go and see my mother. The rest of my family is in other parts of the world. So two of my siblings are in the States. One of them is in Switzerland, and I'm here. So we kind of spread all over. So there is, in that sense, my roots have kind of spread all over rather than it's just Holland. So Holland is not necessarily home. And Holland is a nice place in the summer. I love going to Amsterdam and hang out and see my mates for a few weeks.
Yeah.
But it's not. It's cold. It can be miserable. I think we got 20,000 different words for rain in Holland. So
the Dutch and the English are quite similar, aren't they? Yeah, very similar. That's amazing. So when you travel now, you travel on a Hong Kong passport or a China passport?
So I got a Hong Kong passport. And it's quite funny because in Holland, when I arrive, I usually go into the Dutch queue, and I got my Dutch name and I speak Dutch, and I'll say good morning, goedemorgen, and then I'll give him my Chinese passport, and he goes like, where's the other one? And so I had to turn it in, otherwise it doesn't work. And he kind of stamps it and puts me through and greets me in Dutch. But when I landed in Moscow, I took a long time for the immigration officer to be convinced that my passport was real. When checking and double checking and so on. So yeah, you get some questions here and there, but otherwise it's not a problem. And your visa-free access to I don't know how many countries. It's a very flexible passport.
If you wanted to go to Europe, it's visa-free.
Yeah. So it's not an issue.
Amazing. I want to cheers you to that.
All right.
Okay, and then the other thing that I first got to know you for is designing Hong Kong. And I've really admired that platform. It's an NGO, right?
Yeah.
I've really admired that platform because it touches on something we lack in Hong Kong. Intelligent design, intelligent urban design that serves the community. And I've attended some of your earlier talks, and I subscribe to your newsletter, and I'm in the know of what's moving, and I find you're providing a service that's really needed in this city. Really needed.
It is fun. It's also fun to do because it's daily life, touches everybody, and you can help people, really help people all the time, because there are issues everywhere all the time in the environment that people care about, and you can, because we've done it now so long, the best help you can give people is to get them to understand the process of decision making and how you get to how you got to the point that they are, whatever the development is in their area, and how they could possibly move forward, how you can make a change, where the points of intervention are. So you can really help people. So we get pulled into, and people have got issues in Mount Shan, people got issues in Chak Ho Ling, people got issues in Tuen Mun, people got issues in Stanley. I mean, people will call you in, and then you can really advise them on the process and how things are going and how they could possibly make a change. And then try to also step away from people that are leaning on you, because they'll want you to do it for them. And you go like, no, we'll help you to do it yourself. And then out of that, people learn, and people then feel empowered, and then they become leaders in their own area for those kind of urban and environmental issues. And then you see them grow. You see the voices coming back. I know you have Kathy Law here before. And that was around the street markets. She'd worked on Staunton Street issues, and then it became about the Central Street Market, Graham Street area. And then at some stage it was like, who's going to lead this? And we all went into, Kenny, you're local, you're going to do this. You're going to push it. And now she's grown into a leading voice, and it's fantastic. And we now see the same happening in Kennedy Town. There is a person who's becoming more and more a leader there, and we see that in Chak Ho Ling, where Freddie is becoming more and more of a leader. He learns the issue, starts to lead the community and builds it up. So it empowers people. It's
empowering.
Yeah, and so we don't have to be in front. You know what I mean? We're happy to be just helping and let people
guide people to navigate the laws and regulations as well, right?
Yeah, and also connect with other people. So a lot what we do is just, other than let them understand the processes, is connect with other people, networks, and then see people get together, and then we can slowly disappear. We're very small, so it's all about motivating and supporting and enabling, rather than try to run in front of it.
Yes.
It doesn't have to be us, rather not. Rather more voices out there that are empowered to do their own thing.
And of course, as a district councillor now, you probably have less time for designing Hong Kong, or do you strike a good balance?
It's like a good balance, because Pok Phalam as a constituency has primarily environmental issues to deal with and transport issues. Whereas maybe other district councillors, they have more social welfare issues to deal with if they're in a poor neighbourhood, a lot of elderly people with a lot of issues that need to be resolved. I don't have that in Pok Phalam. We have the average income is for a household is above $100,000 a month. It's
a demographic.
Very different demographic. So it's very much and that's the environmental issues are very close to what we do designing Hong Kong. So that it fits hand in glove. So it kind of flows into each other so easily.
Now, is Pok Phalam the largest expat community in Hong Kong?
By percentage of non-Hong Kong
residents?
Probably pretty. I mean, Stanley will be up there too. But as a whole constituency, Yeah, I would say it's quite high up there in terms of, on average, in terms of non-Chinese, non-Hong Kong passport holders, or people with at least with a dual nationality, you know. So yeah, it's quite international. It actually, I've seen some reports done by Hong Kong U where they looked at the average number on the languages. They looked at languages, and so they had I think on average we have more Russian speakers than anywhere in Hong Kong. We have more German speakers. No, I don't think we beat the French-speaking percentage that is in Stanley, but so on a lot of languages we have a higher percentage.
United Nations of Hong Kong.
It is a bit United Nations of Hong Kong, yeah, but not entirely, because the demographics is quite selective. It's not as mixed in terms of income levels.
And as a district councillor, do you have to run every 2 years?
Every 4 years.
Every 4 years, okay.
So I've been elected now 3 times.
Amazing. Is there a limit?
No, I mean, until you go nutty and people don't vote for you anymore, I guess, until you lose it. No, there's no limit. You can run as long as people think you do a good job and they keep giving you the vote. I'm 65% at the moment, so...
Amazing. That's up there, isn't it? Like
65% is good. There's a good solid support, yeah.
And I've got so many questions for you. What is the project that you're most proud of as a district councillor and as a Designing Hong Kong founder?
As a district councillor, in about 2 years, I think, there will be a walking route signposted from Kennedy Town MTR station all the way to Stanley Main Beach. It's, you know, like it's very simple, but
trail, is it?
It takes you all different type of pedestrian footways. Some of it close to the water, more like a trail. Some of it's just the footpath along the road, but it takes you there. And the idea is that then people will start demanding for that route to be put closer to the waterfront. And there is a few areas where, with some simple but not cheap infrastructure, it could be further made closer to the waterfront. There is an area from Sandy Bay to Telegraph Bay that requires kind of like an elevated footway over the water to be built. It's expensive, but the demand from the public has to be there before they're going to commit those funds. It's simple to do, but it's
attractive too.
Oh, once it's there, it's fantastic. Over Waterfall Bay will be the next, and that, but there's still somewhere in the pipeline. But it could get to a point that it is too expensive for the category of projects that it sits in now, and then it goes to another category, then it needs electrical approval, and then you need political support.
You're confident you're going to see this one through?
Well, as long as the footpath marking is there, then the public demand will be there, growing for these shortcuts to be built. And then in the end, you'll have a fantastic walking route, which is great for elderly people as well, because people who may not be using the country park as much because they find the inclines too challenging, then this one, except for one section in South Bay when you go up to Chunham Cock to go down again, that's the only section that will have a significant gradient, but everything else is pretty flat.
So that ETA about 2 years, you reckon?
Well, I think ETA for 2 years for all the signage to be in place, and then however long it takes to get the shortcuts to be done.
So once you've done that, then the next one is to create a walkway all around Victoria Harbour.
Well, the Victoria Harbour one is in progress, and then we started with that in 2003, 2002.
That's where you first started?
That's design, because it was not Designing Hong Kong, it was Designing Hong Kong Harbour District.
I remember that, yes.
And we dropped the word Harbour District because we started getting involved in so many other urban issues. So the other significant... right now, I think one of the one that excites me a lot is a project where we have the beverage manufacturers, the waste guys, and the green groups in one working group discussing how we can reduce waste from our drinking behavior, and I'm talking packaged beverages.
Right.
So not coming to your coffee shop,
Bottled
the one-off
soft
service,
drinks,
bottled soft drinks, exactly. So and that's 50% of that is water, by the way, all these plastic water bottles, and trying to figure out a way of changing that. Government is also looking at it, and they're looking at some kind of deposit scheme on the plastic bottles. So we hope, and we're trying to do this and then coincide at some stage to come up with proposals of how to reduce our waste from drinking, which is 5 million bottles a day. I mean, it's huge.
5 million bottles a day in Hong Kong.
Yeah. So it's huge. So trying to figure out ways to reduce that. Of course, the number one is bring your own bottle and refill.
Yeah.
So we need refill stations. And industry is in this group. So it's not just green groups, it's industry that's as well there. And they're supporting the recommendation of, go and do refill.
Yes.
So, I mean, they would give up revenue there. But they're quite confident that people will want to drink beautiful fermented teas or sweet drinks or power drinks, or, those people have it. And you don't want to take away consumer choice. But it's just then, so what kind of packaging do you go for? Do you have eco packs? Do you do deposits? Do you do both?
Combination of both, I think.
Yeah.
Change takes a while, doesn't it? But if there was a deposit, even on your water plastic bottle, a lot of people would return it.
Totally. The moment there is a monetary incentive in this town and everything is just a few pennies, it will return.
And Singapore discovered that a long time ago, didn't they?
Yes.
Yeah.
And it works. And so the monetary incentive got to be there. But if we now see what government has done with the glass, they charge the distributor or the producer for the glass bottle that is not returned. So if it's not a bottle that has a deposit scheme, so Coca-Cola bottles that go through the restaurant have a deposit scheme. There is some dairy farm milk bottles that have a deposit scheme, but all the other ones don't. So they all these manufacturers and distributors that have these drinks and glass bottles that I have no deposit scheme, they got to pay. But that money just goes to government. It doesn't come back to the consumer that returns the bottle.
Right.
So that's not very effective.
Right.
It's just kind of like a tax, increasing the cost price of the drink.
Yes.
But the tax is not high enough to kind of stop people from buying the glass bottles.
Plastic bag leaving.
Yeah, so it's not the right way. You've got to make sure that you get a monetary incentive for people to actually put it back to scavengers, that they can pick it up from the street and get some money for it. And fantastic, we'll pick it up. Yeah. It will be taken out of the environment very quickly.
I remember seeing those machines in the States and Europe where you put in your aluminium cans or your plastic bottles and it gives you cash.
Yeah, or your octopus card gives you your money back or something like that. But we're looking at that too. The issue in Hong Kong is space. The cost of space in the urban environment is very high. So in Europe, there's always a backyard of the shops where you can stick something. And this takes quite a bit of space because you crush the bottle, there's liquid in there, you got a drip tray, you got to keep the ones that have been crushed. I mean, all in all, you start talking about quite a bit of infrastructure and space. And if you want to have that for 7 million people in a convenient location, you need quite a lot of them.
It requires a bit of engineering and designing and
space, locations.
And space,
yeah. So that needs the reverse. They call them the reverse vending machines. That is part of that process of thinking where can we place them and who's going to pay for that for space.
Understood.
And manage it.
Well, right now with Mana, as you probably know, we've never used plastic from day one, and we started with plant plastic because we couldn't find another alternative. Now we're moving away from plant plastic and we're moving more towards glass. So good news is, just recently Baguio, who are contracted by the government, are picking up all the glass for free, and they're delivering it to government compounds where it's being crushed.
That's right.
And made into bricks and tiles.
That's the
So
one where that's
maybe you
not
can
true.
correct us
That's
on
not
that.
true. That's
Yeah.
not true. So what they do, they crush it and they turn into little chips, and it's basically being crushed to sand
Sand again. Yeah.
or raw sand,
Yeah.
and it's being used for landfill. So we're a little bit disappointed with that because we would hope that the glass will be used to make products that have a higher value than sand.
Sand. Making bricks.
Not really. It's sand, and they use it for landfill. But at least, otherwise they buy this sand in China, so it still has some value.
Yes.
It's turned into something that has value. But if it's being used as a raw material and then into an industry that makes, say, bricks, then that brick will have a greater value.
Of course.
But you're only going to get there at a certain threshold, and so we need the government to at some stage fund the factories that are going to make it, or a factory is going to make it, and help it to get to a production level where it becomes economically viable, so that then the government can withdraw its subsidy.
Yeah.
But it needs that startup subsidy until the volume is there.
Yes.
So anyway, but it's just another step forward.
It's funny because we only received this new information yesterday that our glass bottles will be turned into bricks and tiles. This information came to us yesterday, and we all started clapping and jumping up and down in the office.
Yeah, we got that from Baguio.
Correct.
Yeah, well, Baguio so the good thing is that Baguio is now picking up for free, but
Yes.
before you had to pay Recycles or any of the other guys
A lot of money every month.
to pick it up. Yeah, and so now if Baguio picks it up for free, that's good progress. And then it turned into sand for landfill. At some stage, the volume is there to do something better with the sand that has more value.
Yes.
So that because you want the value to be recognized, it's got to be a resource, and then you're going to make sure that money of the end product somehow trickles down into back to you, or to the scavengers, or the waste collectors, and anybody that needs to go on all the handling.
Added value, right?
Yeah, but it's got to incentivize people to do the hard work.
Okay. So I'm going to look into that a bit more, because we are switching more to glass.
No, it's good. Do.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And then-
any waste that gets out of the waste stream.
Hence, we put out this petition to the government to say, please do something about plant plastic, because it is a good alternative, but it needs to be composted. And if it's composted, it's not toxic. So we're doing that, but at the same time as we put out the petition, we're moving away from plant plastic altogether. So now we're dependent more on paper and glass and compost.
But you've been ahead of the curve, so I think it started through the district council work, because we started to have a lot of waste on the shores of Pok Fulam, and then we started to look where it come from. Then we went to Aberdeen and we went to fish for trash there, and after 4 or 5 times we had a real analysis of what's in the water. It's the big white styrofoam box, it's the plastic bottles, and there is the one-off servings, noodles, cutlery, so the noodle bowl and the lunch box. So that's what you find. The big white box, you need an international solution. So WWF is working on that globally to see what the alternative is and what can be promoted. You can't just solve that in Hong Kong. But at least we got the fish market to be operating cleaner, so that fewer boxes end up in the water. So that's done. Then the plastic bottles, we're now working with the working group. And the third one is kind of this one-off serving containers. Now you've already gone to plant plastic, and now you're kind of trying to move on further. You try to minimize the amount of waste. But if you look in Hong Kong, and the last election, I'm standing outside buildings at lunchtime to talk to people that go in and out for the election, and I noticed that people come outside, 10 minutes later they come back, a plastic bag, lunchbox in styrofoam, noodle cup in styrofoam, a drink with a plastic cover and a straw. And it's not one person, it's the entire building that comes back.
And these are educated people.
These are educated people, and they do that every day.
Yeah.
And the amount of waste that is generated by all these one-off services and that is there is a Hong Kong problem, there is a Hong Kong solution. you don't have to worry what happens in the rest of the world. You can just ban in Hong Kong and say no styrofoam for one of, and then people go like, so what are the solutions? Well, that could be plant-based, or we can go to other, you know, like as you said, you know, this is
holding up well.
This is holding up well. I mean, I've had water in here in this paper cap, and it's still completely. It's only softens it a little bit, and that's an hour almost. It's fine. So we got to get the government to mandate that. We got to get the government to say, sorry, no more.
Well, in Chinese traditional medicine, you can use that as an analogy, right? You go to the doctor, you say you've got a rash on your skin, or you've got a cold or whatever. The doctor will go towards the cause, not address the symptom, right? So in Hong Kong, as you said, this is a Hong Kong solution. Ban styrofoam. Ban single-use plastic. Then you've addressed the root cause. And as for the symptoms, well, then there are solutions, alternatives. Maybe we use plant plastic, maybe we use recycled paper, you know. But we do need to go straight to the root, and that's people's consumption habits.
Yeah.
And I've often wondered why our government doesn't subsidize the recycling industries. Just subsidize them, help them become more efficient.
I think they are starting to recognize that now. We now see subsidies coming in. We now see subsidies coming in for collection. We now see subsidies coming in for the processing plants. So I think government is now recognizing that they can't just leave it up to the private market, but they've done it for too long. They were
20 years ago.
Well, they've been subsidizing waste handling. I mean, it's government contractors picking up, it's government built landfills. I mean, it's all government paid our waste handling. But when it comes to the recycling, they went like, oh, private sector. Well, that doesn't work that way.
Doesn't make sense.
No.
It doesn't make sense. Because this benefits everyone.
And
it benefits the community.
Right? And it's too expensive too. Now you have the guys to pick up the waste, and you get the guys to pick up the bottles, and the guys to pick up the plastic, and you know, like it's all trucks running around. It's all additional cost, and the value at these startup volumes, especially, is just not enough for these companies to survive. So we see them struggling. But I think that we have passed the tipping point. Government is realizing it, and they are now starting to invest in it. But it's still not wholeheartedly. It's still not realizing that in this city, what you need to resolve is the logistics.
Yes.
Because people don't have space in the kitchen. They don't have space on the floor in the building. They have little space in their districts. So you have to address the logistics. You've got to be able to move it, because the moment you separate, you have different piles for the different materials, and that's more space. Instead of one, it becomes more space. And not only that, maybe the food waste goes twice a day, but maybe the glass bottles sit there for the whole week so everything has then a different timing for movement. So that stockpiling that needs to take place for it to become sustainable and economically viable, you need areas to do that. And if you don't have that, it's not going to happen, because then the most economic is just chuck it out and burn it or landfill it. So they have to really get their head around it, and they can't be nice about it. I mean, they wanted to have these green stations in different districts, but the moment people hear, oh, waste, recycling in my district?
Not in my backyard.
Not in my backyard. And you're just going to say, sorry, we're just going to do it.
Yeah.
And you have to be kept ballsy about that, and just and put your foot down as government and say, sorry, we've got to do it. That's it.
And people will soon accept,
Government hopes that once they do the municipal waste charging that...
And then tell me, Paul, you mentioned what you were most proud of as a district councillor. What are you most proud of as an NGO designing Hong Kong? Which project sticks out over the years?
Well, the projects that stick out is the one that we started with, like Harbourfront, and all the issues that we did. But the one that I'm always most proud of is when I've seen people that got involved. You see them individually or directly or themselves or as groups taken on, making efforts, and be self-motivated and self-organized. And when I see that happening, when I see that happening, then I have a smile.
Yeah.
And then I, remember the first time we met the person, and you see them doing it themselves. You go, oh, nice.
All those seeds you were sowing over the years suddenly started to sprout, and then they're becoming shrubs, and then they're becoming trees, and then they're self-seeding.
Yes.
And that's how it's spreading, which brings us on to something that I'm very passionate about and have been talking about in Hong Kong now for many, many years. And that is the change that humanity is going through. We seem to be shifting from a materialism paradigm worldview into more of a holistic consciousness worldview. Are you seeing much of that change in the circles you move in?
Well, especially in the circles that, people that are activists and people that stick their hands out and speak up and do something and put their hands around it it's a self-selecting group of people that are motivated and not for monetary reasons. They do that because they know it makes sense and that it's required for the world, for the city to be sustainable for their families, for their kids. So we definitely see it around it. So the question is not what we see around us, because that it is a self-selecting group. It is like, do we see outside that? Do we see more people get involved? And I think overall you do. I think that overall you see more people being concerned, and you see that the message is spreading. You still see very poor behavior and selfish behavior, and the bus driver who has his lunch and puts a styrofoam package in a plastic bag right next to his bus and then drives off. The taxi driver who chucks his Vitasoy bottle with his urine out of the window and down the slope. I mean, of course you see that behavior, you see really bad behavior.
But overall?
Overall, I think, from where we were 20 years ago, 10 years ago, things are moving ahead and people are becoming more conscious. Children, the best fun, kids. You can always ask by kids for schools, go and talk to you, and I never say no. Because it's the most inspiring. And the younger they are, the more inspiring, because they're asking questions and they're motivated.
You notice the difference when you're speaking to 7, 8, 9-year-old young kids. You ask a question, they all put up their hands. But when you get to teenagers who are 13, 14, 15, you ask a question and they will go.
Oh, they're so self-conscious. They know what it is. And then you go to university and they're asleep and looking at their iPhone.
Yeah, exactly.
So I love primary school conversations. They're the fun.
Like you, I love talking to the younger ones. Me. So, okay, what's the answer? And they go, I don't know. Why did you put up your hands? Because they're engaging.
And they're all laughing and they're all getting.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of school talks recently, from the very young to up to university.
So you don't say no when you get asked?
Never say no.
Yeah.
And I don't charge. It's a service, right? And it's beautiful. And it's lovely. And I like to hand out gifts, prizes. So, okay, kids, who can guess how many, coffee cups we throw away every day in the world? And then obviously gets them thinking, and then at some stage somebody's going to guess it, and then they get the t-shirt or the prize and they love it. The moment you walk into the room and say, okay, I'm going to be handing out prizes, you got all their attention, 100%. Yeah, lovely. Yeah, I just pulled out I'd love to show it to you, but it's inside. A brochure that was put out by the government, I think circa 2008, about the overall design and renovation of Central. It showed the Central Police Station, it showed PMQ.
Conserving Central.
Conserving Central. And I fished it out from my drawer over the weekend, and I looked at it and I'm like, wow, a lot of this has come to pass.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Huh?
CPS is opening soon.
Yeah, they call it Tai Kwun.
Yes, which means big station, right?
Yeah, big building, big house, or Tai Kwun.
Yes.
Dai, big.
So when I tell the taxi driver the old police station, Central Police, is but if you say Tai Kwun, he's like, yeah, that's brilliant. We actually tried to get into the Central Police Station. For 2 years, the Hong Kong Jockey Club made us submit plans and renderings and finances and corporate structures, we submitted a portfolio this thick to try and open, a conscious community inside Central Police Station. And I don't think they understood us from Adam. I don't think they got their head around it. And so in the end, they end up taking the big groups, the big names, when initially they said, it's for the community, it's got to be cultural, it's got to be by Hong Kong, it's got to be from Hong Kong. I feel really, really let down with that one. But no grudges, that's come to pass now.
Well, you're not the only one. I mean, who else got Michelle Gaia, Michelle from Emma the Fringe before. I mean,
she got down, right?
No, she stepped away from it in the end because she just, from what I understood, is that she got so tired down by the process that she stepped away, gave up on it. She said no more.
We were confident we were going to get in, and all we got was a note saying, "Sorry, you've been rejected." It's like, wait a minute, we've just spent a fortune and 2 years of our lives trying to get in. Okay, maybe we're not good enough, fine. But then when we found out who got in, I'm not going to mention names, you're like, you've been lying to us. This is not cultural, this is not about Hong Kong, this is not for Hong Kong, this doesn't benefit the community. What have you done? So, because I campaigned to try and get Central Police Station to become something for the community, like I'm sure you did, and look at this. There's the Central Police Station. There's the police married quarters.
The Central Market is still in progress.
Yeah.
The piers, the rooftop of the piers haven't been done.
No. What a mess they did with those piers.
It's just not progressing.
To face inwards, not designed to face the sea.
Yeah, no, yeah. Some of the piers have the restaurants at the wrong place.
PMQ is a success.
Yeah, that's done.
That. And these government.
This one we have a problem with, and we're still trying to change that. That's the church kind of build a massive tower there. We kind of try to hold that back. Well, we're working very hard trying to convince government that it's not a good idea.
No.
And it's not just them that they're going to build their high rises. Also, other people on the Glenealy there are going to try to put high rises up. I just don't know what you're going to do at the junction just south of the Fringe Club. I mean, how is that going to work?
Well, exactly.
It already doesn't work.
Yeah. Get choked in traffic.
Yeah, so it doesn't make any sense to.
Also, it's a lovely open area, isn't it? Behind the St. Paul.
Of course, and then
where's the map here? This little cluster here, Shun Kung Hoi compound.
Yeah. But so, the government, central government offices is now done, and it's going to open up, and they're going to make it more public, and some of the fences are going to disappear, and it's going to be
you can walk.
A kiosk here and a place to sit, so it's going to be kind of a bit of a park.
Yeah.
And then of course the judicial offices are going to be there. It's called Justice Place.
Nice.
And then the Central Police Station, Tai Kwun, will be done. PMQ is done. Central Market, I mean, they have had a lot of issues there where the plans were way too extravagant, and then they realized they couldn't do it, and so then they had to change the plans again, so they had lots of delays.
Yeah, it's become a bit of a
and still I'm confused by what they're doing. They are going to turn it into, from the drawings that I've seen, it's more kind of like the inside in IFC, where what's upstairs, the big shop, the Wheelock owned shop that is Joyce, or what's upstairs in IFC.
It's not Joyce. It's I know the one.
Yeah, but it's like a bit of a top brand where you have these glass panels and the open air and Lane Crawford, and you can look up. And that's what the area is going to look like. It's going to have an atrium inside, big windows. It's no longer going to be the market. There's hardly any stalls left.
Yes.
So I think once you're inside in the future, the experience of it, I'm not sure that you're going to have the experience that we had with the market. It's not going to function as a market.
Oasis, but it's probably not going to be an oasis of that.
Well, maybe it's going to be an oasis, but it's going to be commercial. I can't see how this is going to be a public space.
I want to ask you, in front of the IFC, they've built that motorway, right, with the tunnel.
That's right, yeah. The central Wansa bypass.
Now, how did that come? Because if you look at the plans, there's no motorway there.
The motorway is a bit of grey there.
Yeah. Oh. Was it always part of the plans?
Yeah. Actually, so the reclamation in Central and in Wanchai is all as part of the Central Wanchai project, where they want to put the tunnel where you go in front of IFC in a tunnel, and then you come up at North Point.
Yes.
So it's basically for traffic to bypass Wanchai.
That would be good, right?
That is good. However, it will not resolve the traffic congestion in Central and Wanchai that we do have,
right?
Because that has nothing to do with traffic that wants to bypass. The traffic congestion we have from Causeway Bay, Wanchai, Central, Sheung Wan is traffic that wants to enter
Central, yeah.
those areas, and there is no space. So basically, you got these queues of cars that are trying to get in, and so that's where the real problem is. You have to make sure the vehicles don't want to go in.
Understood. This brings me to something I'm very passionate about and have been quite vocal about over the years. Why can't we pedestrianize our streets? Why wasn't Soho pedestrianized 15 years ago? And designing Hong Kong, I mean,
yeah,
you're the champions of this. If there's anyone who can answer this question, why that lack of vision of not creating pedestrianized zones that would benefit the economy, would benefit the businesses, would benefit the environment, would allow us to design street furniture that is aesthetic and beautiful and functional, would benefit children, would benefit people, and would limit the amount of cars coming into an already overcrowded and congested center. It makes sense whichever way you look at it, with minimum resistance.
Well, no, it's not minimum resistance. I mean, there was always people objecting.
Always, but they're a minority, not a majority anymore.
But government doesn't, and that's where the problem is. The government doesn't know whether it's a minority. They just don't have a way to gauge it and be confident about it. So it tends to be that the complainant has the strongest voice in all of these things. So that there is an issue there. The second issue is that we don't have an ability for management, whether it's management by government, so they lack resources, then which department is responsible to close off the street, opening it, and be the warden that looks after the area, that knows everybody, that says, oh, maybe we should adjust the closing times, and be flexible and learn and be responding to the situation constantly. We don't have a real mechanism for that, and we see the problem in Mongkok now, where the solution for the absence of a warden is to let the traffic back in.
So we were just touching on pedestrianization, and I mean, if we can build a bridge that connects Hong Kong, Macau, and China, surely we can solve pedestrianization.
It's much easier to engineer things. Throw money at it.
Say that.
But for Hong Kong, it's always the case.
Yeah, great.
If you want an engineering solution,
no problem.
Not a problem. You need the money, it's not a problem. You need the engineer, not a problem.
You need architecture.
It's not good. No, because they don't spend time on making it look nice, but then they try to get better on it. But the real problem is that when it comes to management, so there's an issue. So Soho, for example, if there would be a Soho group and a Soho business association that would drive it, there would be a better chance it could get somewhere. So Lang Kwai Fong with Alan Zeman did that.
Yeah.
And it was, of course, then good that Alan Zeman is kind of the main property owner, and he's kind of driving it and he's staffing it, and therefore he can get somewhere. But if you see how far he got, it's like, well, can we do more?
Yeah.
It's kind of a poor environment.
Yeah.
So he's been able to push it up to there, but he can't push it to real good quality. But at least you can get something done.
Yeah.
But in Mongkok, who's going to manage it? Do you need the Home Affairs Department, the district office to work with the community, to set up an association?
Transport department.
And try to have a local solution that works for the circumstances. Because all the circumstances everywhere are different. You need local tailored solution that learns and understands and keeps changing. That ability we just don't have in a way.
Shame, it's held Hong Kong back, in my opinion.
It is.
Got a dozen departments overlooking a square foot. You know, each department's like, well, it's not my kind of thing, it's not my kind of thing, not my responsibility, it's your responsibility, no, it's his responsibility. And we kind of get stuck in quicksand.
If the community takes responsibility and gets organized and starts asking, you'll get somewhere.
Yes.
You get somewhere. But they've got to be localized.
Yeah.
And you have to be willing to fight for your local solution and push it and push it and push it.
Absolutely.
And demonstrate that you also can overcome local objections. If somebody disagrees, that you resolve it and then put it to government, rather than leave the objector to government to resolve.
Correct. There's a question of we need the people to speak up more, to demonstrate more, to go on the streets and march, so to speak. A bit like what happened in...
well, march and do.
You know, yeah.
We'll try to improve your own area and fight for local improvements.
The government's as good as the people. If the people speak up, the government acts. So how can we motivate people to speak up? Everyone's so busy, everyone's so distracted. But, you know, with the umbrella revolution, that was beautiful. For me, that was some of my most beautiful moments in Hong Kong, as well as that big march we did in 2003 for Article 23. You know, the hairs on my arms were standing up. And I think the umbrella revolution was the most successful thing Hong Kong's done, because it's motivated a whole younger generation of millennials now. But I will never forget your yellow umbrella amongst the sea of red umbrellas.
Well, it's the sea of red flowers and banners and colors, yeah.
Grey colors.
Yeah.
And then someone, I don't know who, opened this yellow umbrella and stood there.
Yeah. Well, I did that.
That was so powerful. It was silent, but effective.
It was. Prior to that, we had government using tear gas. Kind of smoking out the kids from the streets. I mean, and it was so not Hong Kong. I mean, that's not how Hong Kong had ever dealt with these issues.
No.
And it's kind of like was the CY long time of provoking and trying to push things to the next level, basically to get to a situation that would allow kind of like the national authorities, the central authorities to kind of take greater control over Hong Kong. So kind of the old mechanism of provocation and then to have excuses for taking more extreme measures. And he hasn't stopped. I mean, throughout his tenure, that continued, the provocations. I mean, then it became that he started to provoke this whole independence debate, where there was one guy who'd written one book at Lingnan, and they had some kids that kind of like were kind of studying that as a concept and discussing it as a concept. But he created a movement, and again, by provoking it, and that allowed then the central authorities to kind of respond to it all the time, and gave them excuses to kind of change the way the one country, two systems are being dealt with. Very naughty, very unfortunate. I guess very smart from the point of view of the antagonist on the pro-establishment side, who believe that it's just a good way of making sure that the central authorities have greater control over Hong Kong. I mean, there are people there that fear Hong Kong's independent voice, not the independence, but the independent voice it has. Very unfortunate. And we now see a lot of disappointment among the youth, and a lot of kind of like rethink about what they're going to do next.
And in between generations, isn't it?
Yeah, and it's crystallizing slowly. But I think there's a lot of rethink going on in town.
But that yellow umbrella amongst the sea of colours was one of the most beautiful, subtle yet powerful demonstrations I've seen in our city.
Small umbrella in my inside pocket, came out of my suit. Yeah.
Do you have photos of that?
Yeah, no, I have. I must have clips of it.
I can't remember where I saw it. Social media, was it? Or did it make printed news as well?
It went viral. Yeah, no, it went globally viral.
Yeah.
That image. As you said, it was very simple. I opened
Did anyone notice? Did anyone stop you? Or?
No, I mean everybody was focusing on doing the toast.
Yeah.
I was at the back row, with the media right behind me. So although there was a very small umbrella, it looked very big because it was close to the camera. So so it was and sort of most people didn't even recognize it, and I had it up for a few minutes too, maybe, and that was it.
Right.
So that was it. Made the statement.
I still have my yellow umbrella, and I keep it.
Yeah.
Most cherished umbrella. It's the only umbrella I never lose.
I've given it away to somebody who said they were going to do an exhibition.
Get it back.
But I don't know where it is, so
Get it back.
the original.
Get it back. You want to keep that. It might
Yeah.
have value in the future.
Oh.
More value in the future. On that note, Paul, I want to thank you for joining me for breakfast.
Oh, thanks for serving breakfast.
Having this chat.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.